When I say the word suburb to urbanists, what they'll think of is boring cookie-cutter homes in an isolated, sprawling, and uninteresting place, where you have to drive to do literally anything, entailing going down dangerous roads to soulless big-box stores and mini-malls, and sitting in debilitating traffic to get into the city to actually do something interesting, or just go to work. It is understood that if you want to live in a home big enough for your family, in a place that's quiet and safe, and not overwhelmed by the chaos of city centers, then this is a sacrifice that you have to make. Urbanists will often present the idea of the missing middle, where people live in condos, duplexes, things like that, in order to promote more efficient urban design. But many would rather live in their suburb than have to live in this sort of arrangement, particularly families. And I'm here to say that it is possible to have standard suburban living and high quality urbanism. Suburbs can actually be great. The concept of the suburb is actually a really amazing idea. And the suburb, in theory, is an idealistic fantasy that we should be grateful is actually possible. For almost all of human history, people either lived rurally and had a brutal agricultural lifestyle, or lived crammed in dense and dirty cities to cash in on economic opportunity. What the suburb does is it gives you the best of both worlds. You can live in a home and be surrounded by nature, but still contribute to the economic hub of the city. The problem, as you might have guessed, is space. Suburbs make living less dense, and suddenly intracity travel becomes the heartbeat of the suburb's functionality. Cities had been meant for walking, but now people live too far out to walk into the city. This is where car centricity comes in, right? This is when they destroyed city centers to make room for highways and centered life around driving on wide roads and big parking lots. But actually, no, this happened to be the choice of many urban planners around the world, particularly in North America, which is why we make this association. But I'm going to give you examples of suburbs that function in a much more sustainable, healthy, efficient way that allows for higher quality of life. The first one is going to be Hampstead in London. I chose this one because one of the criticisms of urbanism is that it's going to force people to sacrifice their homes and their space in favor of tighter living in some kind of apartment. However, Hampstead shows that you can have pedestrian and transit centricity with people living in literal mansions. When I first visited this neighborhood, I was astounded by how non-car centric it was, considering its reputation as an extremely affluent part of town. Streets are narrow, and there is no wasted space. However, the homes are massive with front lawns and backyards. Everyone is within a short walk to the beautiful and community-friendly high street, as well as other commercial streets, meaning local activities such as getting coffee, a quick grocery run, dropping off the kids at school, or even going to the park doesn't require taking the car out. And of course, there are both underground and overground stations that are safe, clean, and take you anywhere within London. The area is lush and full of nature, and it's just crazy to me that a suburb far more urbanized and spatially efficient than where I come from in LA has massive fields to play on and woods to explore. In America, people think you can only experience that if you live out in the country. Hampstead pretty much dismantles all of your preconceived thoughts of when it comes to what sacrifices would have to be made for the benefits of urbanist living, because it turns out you can actually keep your house. These people probably have much bigger houses and backyards than you do, yet they don't have to put anywhere near 30,000 miles a year on their cars. They don't even have to ride bikes, for all the people who think that lack of bike lanes is the primary problem in North America. The key to how this is possible is designing a neighborhood with the pedestrian in mind, and the access to high-quality transit services. Another example is from everyone's favorite urbanist paradise, the Netherlands. While taking the Rotterdam Metro up to The Hague, I noticed that we were passing by some of the most beautiful rural towns and suburbs, and just thought it was incredible that they were well connected by metro service to both of their neighboring large cities, as well as having fairly extensive tram connections. These people get all of the urbanist benefits, while also not having to live in a big city. Compared to Hampstead, there is so much more open space with canals and lakes, with there even being farms down the street. Here you can truly experience the quaintness of town living that big city living like that in Hampstead can't quite offer. And yet people are within a 15-minute walk of the metro, which can take you to neighboring towns and of course Rotterdam and The Hague, and also just a 15-minute walk from the local town center. People have cars here, but the urban design is still geared for pedestrians. You'll have to drive here more than in a place like Hampstead, but you're not a slave to the car, and there isn't heavy traffic and big parking lots all around. The essence of local community and culture is still extremely strong, despite all the open space. And many of these people probably have a shorter commute to their office in The Hague and Rotterdam than you do for your job that is within your own city, and all without having to drive in clogged urban beltways. I thought that rather than breaking down how suburbs should work in theoretical terms, that letting real-world examples reveal themselves to you would be much more effective. These places show that suburbs aren't some experimental idea that can't be made to work, but rather, when they're done correctly, they actually resemble the idyllic and paradisal lifestyle that they were meant to offer. People aren't being spoiled and delusional for aspiring to have a house for their families and living in a quaint neighborhood, like how many urbanists tend to think. What they actually want is something that is not only possible, but clearly realistic. The problem, of course, is that all these car-centric suburbs with their horrible urban design have already been built. So, what now? Well, what we do know is that change will have to be long and incremental, but that it can only be done when driven with a vision and positive ideas. Without the aspiration and common goal, then there will be no progress. Would you rather give up, or at least try and adapt to the great uphill challenge ahead of undoing the car-centric mess of suburbia? Maybe in the places we've already built, they can't be made to be as good as Hampstead, but we can at least make them better than what they are now. And in a time of a major housing crisis, all the while car-centric suburbs are failing more than ever, both financially and infrastructurally, check out Strong Towns for why that is, something is going to have to change. And what it looks like they're going to be doing is moving everybody into apartments and tall buildings. And while I'm not opposed to some densification, I still believe in the suburb and single-family homes. And at the end of the day, that's what most people around the world dream of. And knowing with real-world proof that we can provide that in a smart and efficient way should be inspiring us to chase after that reality for everybody. Thanks for listening. See you next time.